the Alpha's surprise twin heirs. Chapter 15. Pale blush lightened the horizon, tinting charcoal clouds with crimson where the forest met the sky. Talia pressed her palms to the cool stone balustrade of the balcony and tried to breathe past the flutter in her chest. Every morning the eastern rim burned a little brighter, as though the world itself warned her of what loomed unseen. She wondered if anyone else noticed the red streak thickening day by day, or if her mother's heart simply read danger in every dawn. Soft footsteps sounded behind her. Before she turned, Aldric's arms slid around her waist, pulling her against the heat of his bare chest. He rested his chin on her shoulder, following her gaze. "It looks closer," he murmured, voice husky with sleep. "Or I'm seeing farther," she answered. She laid her hands over his forearms, drawing courage from the steady strength beneath her fingers. Last night, the sky glowed long after moonrise. His lips brushed the curve of her neck. "The clouds are picking up fire from distant blazes. Black embers torch villages to spread fear." Talia closed her eyes and fanned distrust. "I dreamed again. Lyrian and Lucian were older, standing with people I've never met. Allies, perhaps. Their eyes were bright, but I smelled smoke." Aldric turned her gently until she faced him. Morning light stroked the planes of his face, softened the golden flecks in his eyes. He cradled her cheek. "Dreams guide, not chain us. We will forge a path where they stand tall, without standing alone." She managed a slight smile. "You always find steel beneath my storms, and you temper my steel with grace." He kissed her softly, slow enough that the chill air felt warmer. "Together, we hold the line." She leaned into the kiss, lips parting to savor the promise in his breath. When they finally drew apart, the crimson had faded to rose. A hush lingered around them, fragile but real. A pocket of peace they clung to for a heartbeat longer. "Today we reinforce the southern ramparts," Aldric said, brushing hair from her face. "Luca's patrol reports gaps near the ravine. I want runestones set before nightfall." "I'll speak with the young families," Talia replied. "Fear is catching faster than we can mend it. Charlotte and Beth will help." He nodded, pressing his forehead to hers. "Lead them with your light. I'll shore up shields with Luca." She inhaled his scent, pine, smoke, something uniquely him, and let it settle her nerves. When he released her, she lingered to watch him dress. Dark training leathers hugging broad shoulders, bracers buckled with quick efficiency. He caught her gaze, something mischievous sparking in his eyes. "You're staring, Luna." "Admiring." She offered a pointed look at his shirt. "Wouldn't want the warriors distracted by your lack of attire." He chuckled, tugging the linen over his head. "They'll be too busy avoiding my sword's edge to notice." He crossed the room to where the twins still slept, curls splayed on pillows. Gently, he brushed Lyrian's forehead. The boy stirred, murmuring, then settled again. "They dream peacefully," Aldric whispered. "For now." Talia touched Lucian's tiny hand. "We'll keep it that way as long as we can." They left the nursery together. In the corridor, servants bowed, but Talia caught unease in their eyes. Rumors spread quickly. She gave each a reassuring nod before parting with Aldric at the main stair. He headed toward the training grounds, she toward the great hall. Downstairs, warriors milled in the courtyard. Luca barked crisp commands, adjusting formations. When Aldric strode in, conversation hushed into focused silence. Talia paused, watching her mate move among his people with a calm that disguised coiled tension. Luca joined him, tall, composed, his scarred brow furrowed. "2 flights will accompany Runemaster Davian," Luca said. "We've plotted anchor points every 20 meters. Aldric scanned the parchments. "Good. Rotate archers every 4 hours. Fatigue breeds mistakes." His gaze flicked over the troops, and remind them, "We protect, we don't provoke." "Yes, Alpha." Luca saluted. Their eyes met in silent accord, years of battle spoken in a glance. Talia felt gratitude swell, In Luca, Aldric had a brother. In Luca, Talia found unwavering support. In the great hall, Talia found Charlotte leaning on a cane, her ankle mending slower than pride allowed, while Beth arranged sweet herb tea on tables. A cluster of young wolves paced nearby, hushed voices frayed. Talia stepped onto the dais. "My friends," she began, projecting warmth more than authority. "Fear feeds on silence. Let's speak openly." They turned, some embarrassed by their own anxiety. Talia motioned them closer. Charlotte grinned and hobbled forward, clapping her hands. "You heard the Luna," Charlotte said. "Gather round before Beth starts force-feeding calm leaf stew." Beth sniffed theatrically. The stew works and tastes better than panic. A ripple of laughter eased shoulders. Talia waited until eyes met hers. "The fires on the horizon are real, but so are our defenses. Aldric and Luca reinforce every ward. Allies ride to stand beside us. We are not alone." A young mother hugged her toddler closer. "But black embers burn entire villages." "Fire meets stone of unity," Talia replied. She gestured to Charlotte. "You've trained with Lady Charlotte. Tell them what unity looks like." Charlotte straightened. "Unity is ducking when your partner swings a staff, trusting she'll miss your ear by a hair. It's sharing water and wounds. We've withstood skirmishes because we fight as one wall." A bearded apprentice raised a hand. "And the twins, Luna? Rumor says they can summon storms." "They can summon hope," Talia said gently. "And yes, their gifts grow, which is why we guide them. Power guided by love becomes shield, not threat." As if on cue, two small figures barreled through the doorway, giggling. Lyrian waved chubby arms. Petals blossomed from thin air, swirling in playful spirals. Lucian clapped, sending motes of light dancing across the banners. Gasps turned to delighted laughter. Beth caught Lucian planting a kiss on his nose. "Little lantern, you'll have me sweeping petals all day." Lucian glowed at the praise. Lyrian toddled to the toddler in her mother's arms, offering a single petal. The child squealed, fear forgotten. Talia knelt, pulling both twins into her lap. "See? Light overcomes shadow one petal at a time." She kissed their curls, heart aching with love fierce enough to face any horizon. The hall buzzed with renewed optimism. Charlotte limped to Talia's side. "You and those boys could charm Thunder," she whispered. "Let's hope Thunder's listening," Talia replied. By mid-morning, Aldric and Luca returned, dirt smudging their forearms, but satisfaction gleaming. Aldric found Talia near the hearth, twins napping on pillows. "South rampart sealed," he reported quietly. "Rune anchors humming." She reached for his hand, brushing soot from his knuckles. "Families are calmer. Your presence helps." He kissed her hair. "Your words worked miracles. Petals didn't hurt either." Luca cleared his throat with a faint smile. "I prefer swords to flowers, but morale counts." Beth appeared with water and fruit. "Eat or you'll topple before sundown." Aldric accepted, nudging Talia to share. She bit into a pear slice, juice sweet on her tongue. Across the hall, elderly Elder Rhea watched them, eyes shimmering with pride. For a heartbeat, the estate felt whole again. But behind that momentary calm, Talia sensed the wind shifting. Smell of smoke, echo of distant hoofbeats. She tightened her fingers around Aldric's. They had one day, maybe two, before the storm broke. She would spend every hour weaving courage into the fragile spaces of her pack. Aldric squeezed back. "Together," he whispered. "Always," she answered, drawing strength from the promise that had become their heartbeat. The calm might be fleeting, but love was not, and love would see them through the reckoning winds already beginning to rise. Beth had not meant to pry. She had been hunting spare parchment in the dim alcove behind the library when her foot caught on a warped floorboard. It groaned, tilting upward to reveal a shallow cavity hacked into the plank beneath. Inside lay a leather folio tied with crimson ribbon. The sight chilled her. crimson, like the distant fires. Heart hammering, she lifted the folio and hurried down the corridor. She found Talia in the nursery, stroking Lyrian's hair while Charlotte hummed a lullaby. Lucian's tiny snores filled the room with peace Beth dreaded to shatter. "Talia," she whispered, "I found something." The urgency in her voice snapped the lullaby short. Charlotte's eyes sharpened. "What kind of something?" Beth untied the ribbon. Inside were maps of patrol routes, rune sketches, and several short letters written in a shaky hand. "The Alpha moves forces south tomorrow night. Ward anchors reset at moonrise. Strike when shadow falls." Charlotte swore under her breath. Talia's pulse roared in her ears, but her voice remained calm. "Beth, you did well bringing this straight to me. We must show Aldric and Luca immediately." They hurried through torch-lit halls. In the courtyard, Aldric was debriefing scouts while Luca adjusted a broken shield hinge. At the sight of Talia's expression, conversation stopped. She handed the folio to Aldric. He scanned the pages, jaw tightening. Luca leaned over his shoulder. Ink still fresh. He sniffed the page. Scent of juniper. Only one wolf in the manor uses juniper ink. Talia's brows knit. "Kieran?" Luca nodded grimly. Kieran, younger nephew of Elder Bran, worked in the archives. Aldric's gaze hardened. "Bring him, but quietly. We do not need panic." Charlotte marched off with 2 guards, her cane tapping like a gavel of judgment. Minutes later she returned, pushing Kieran, a wiry wolf with spectacles, wrists shaking, into the war chamber. Elders Bran and Rhea trailed behind, faces ashen. Aldric shut the door. "Kieran, these are your letters?" He spread them on the oak table. Kieran's gaze darted. I wrote them." His voice wavered. "But I never meant harm." Elder Bran's fists clenched. "Why, nephew? Our family owes the Alpha loyalty." Kieran swallowed. "You owe him everything. I owe my sister her life." He looked at Talia with pleading eyes. "Black Ember's healers claimed they could cure her lung fever. They asked only for maps. I believed them." Talia felt sympathy flicker but kept her tone steady. "Where is your sister now?" "At the outpost clinic. They promised medicine tonight." Luca stiffened. "Which clinic?" "The old trade station near Emberfell Road." Aldric exhaled sharply. "It's a trap. They lured you to hand over patrols and will use your sister as shield." Kieran's knees wobbled. "I'm sorry, I thought—" "Thinking cannot end at fear," Aldric said, voice flint sharp. "How many letters?" 3. Tears slipped down Kieran's cheeks. "I didn't know they'd hurt anyone. They said the Alpha's reign brings war, that the twins will enslave us." Murmurs rose among elders. Talia stepped forward, raising her palm. Silence fell. "Kieran's fear is shared by many," she said. "That is why lies spread. But truth stands here. Our children heal sparrows and soothe hearts. Does that sound like tyranny?" Rhea nodded. Others shifted uneasily. Talia met Kieran's eyes. "We will rescue your sister, but trust must be rebuilt." She glanced at Aldric, who inclined his head. "House arrest," Aldric decreed. "Under Beth's watch in the infirmary suite. If another message leaves these walls, punishment will fall on more than hands." Kieran bowed, weeping. Guards led him away. Bran lingered. "My family owes the pact debt." His voice trembled. Talia placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Protect your nephew with guidance. Show him truth through service." Bran's eyes filled. He bowed deeply. Within hours, Luca assembled a covert team, 6 scouts, 1 healer, and himself, to ride for the clinic. Aldric inspected each warrior. "Retrieve the girl. No bloodshed if possible." Talia fastened a ward pin to Luca's cloak. "Let mercy be your first weapon." "Always, Luna," Luca replied, squeezing her hand before striding into the night. The manor settled into uneasy stillness. Talia walked the corridor with Beth, lantern glow brushing stone. "Do you blame yourself?" Beth asked softly. For trusting too much? Talia shook her head. Trust is strength. Without it, we become black embers, feeding on fear. They reached the nursery. Charlotte sat cross-legged on the floor, Lyrian perched on her lap. Lucian knelt beside a whimpering pup, one of the courtyard dogs hit by a runaway cart. Lucian laid his small hand on the pup's shoulder. A hush fell. Blue light pulsed beneath his fingers. The pup's leg straightened, whine fading into curious yip. Lyrian gently scratched its ears. Charlotte's eyes glistened. Beth covered her mouth. Healing again? Talia knelt. Sweet Star, what did you do? Lucian smiled, sleepy. Fixed hurt. Lyrian nodded, as if it were simple as breathing. Talia hugged them, her heart a storm of pride and awe. Charlotte murmured, Remember when my ankle broke? Perhaps I should ask them next time. Lucian giggled. Lyrian sent a swirl of sparks that became a hovering butterfly of light. It flitted to Charlotte's shoulder, then dissolved. Beth exhaled. Their power blooms like dawn. Talia kissed each boy's cheek. You must rest now. Great gifts need great sleep. She tucked them into bed. As she dimmed the lamps, she whispered to Charlotte, Their innocence is our shield. We must guard it fiercely. Charlotte squeezed her hand. Guardians till our last breath. Moon climbed high before Luca returned. Talia and Aldric stood near the gate as riders approached. Luca dismounted, helping a frail girl, Kieran's sister, down. Her eyes glowed with fever, but relief softened her features. No opposition, Luca reported. Clinic abandoned. They left medicine as bait, but we retrieved letters detailing next strike point, Ridgevale Crossing. Aldric nodded. We'll reinforce tomorrow. The girl leaned toward Talia. Thank you. Her voice was barely a whisper. Beth hurried forward, guiding her to the infirmary. Talia watched them go, then turned to Luca. Any sign of black embers? Tracks leading west, swift, deliberate. They want us chasing shadows. Aldric clasped Luca's arm. Rest now. Dawn brings new tasks. Luca bowed before departing. Talia slipped her hand into Aldric's. Every step ahead feels heavier. Because we carry hearts, he murmured. They walked back to the manor. Midway across the lawn, a chilled wind whipped their cloaks. Talia shivered, sensing eyes in the dark. Aldric sniffed the air. No intruders, he said, though his shoulders remained tense. Inside, they climbed to the nursery. Twins slept curled together. Moonbeams slanted across their faces, casting halos of silver. Talia smoothed Lucian's blanket. They healed a pup tonight. What next? Aldric brushed Lyrian's hair. Whatever it is, we'll guide it. They moved down the hall to their chamber. Talia's limbs trembled with exhaustion, but Aldric's nearness steadied her. He closed the door, drawing her into his arms. Foreheads touching, they breathed in unison. Tomorrow the northern envoy arrives, he whispered. And we must greet doubt with grace, she said. He tipped her chin. Your grace is a weapon they won't expect. And your strength, my shield. She rose on toes, kissing him. The kiss deepened, slow like melting snow, until tension drained from their muscles. He eased her onto the bed, fingers tracing the curve of her spine beneath her nightdress. Alpha, she murmured. Say it again, he teased, nipping her lip. Alpha. She tugged his tunic free, palms sliding over warm skin. Passion flared, banishing shadows. They loved gently, hearts speaking where words could not. Later they lay entwined, Talia's cheek on Aldric's chest, listening to his heartbeat. I used to fear these quiet moments, he confessed, stroking her hair. Afraid I'd lose them to war. She kissed the pulse at his throat. War cannot steal what we refuse to surrender. Outside, wind stirred branches against stone. Talia closed her eyes, holding the calm inside her like flame cupped against night's breath. Dawn would test them again, but for the span of a heartbeat. Love reigned unchallenged. Gray dawn broke with a restless hush. The manor's courtyards, usually alive with clattering armor and joking voices, felt strangely muted, as if every stone held its breath. Talia stirred in Aldric's arms, blinking into soft light. A lingering warmth wrapped her from their night in each other's embrace. But the moment she rose, reality pressed in. Today, the northern envoy would arrive. Today, doubt might seep into the very heart of their halls. Aldric woke the instant her weight shifted. He caught her wrist lightly, drawing her back for a brief kiss that tangled morning air with promise. "Come back?" he whispered against her lips. "Always," she replied, though the word held a dozen meanings. She dressed in cream and silver, colors of dawn's truce, while Aldric donned midnight leather embroidered with subtle runes. Together they crossed to the nursery. Lyrian and Lucian were already awake, tiny legs kicking beneath blankets. Lucian cooed, reaching for invisible motes that sparkled like morning dew. Lyrian looked toward the window. As Talia followed his gaze, she saw a single feather suspended in sunlight spinning slowly. With a quiet laugh, she realized Lucian was turning the feather in gentle orbit. "You boys never cease," Aldric murmured. "Remember, we begin lessons soon." Lyrian answered by producing a puff of breeze that sent the feather gliding into Aldric's hair. Lucian squealed with delight. Talia scooped them both into hugs, marveling at their growing coordination. Charlotte's cane tap echoed from the hall. She poked her head in, hair tousled, but eyes bright. "Two tiny terror twins ready for breakfast?" Beth arrived too, carrying warm cloths and milk. Luca followed, already armored, yet he paused at the doorway, expression softening as he saluted the boys. "Morning, princes." Lucian responded with a gummy grin. Lyrian reached toward Luca's sword hilt, and with a tiny flick of his fingers, the blade's gemstone pommel shone brighter for an instant. "If they start enchanting my steel, I may retire," Luca joked, though wonder laced his tone. After feeding and dressing the twins, Talia passed them to Beth and Charlotte. Beth tucked Lyrian against her shoulder. Charlotte balanced Lucian on her hip, brandishing the cane like a captain's staff. "We'll have them spotless and charming for your grand diplomacy, Luna." Talia offered a grateful smile. "Spare us at least some petals or floating feathers until after the envoy leaves." "But the petals relieve stress," Charlotte called, already marching down the hall. Beth's quiet chuckle drifted behind. Aldric waited until the footsteps faded. "You trust them more each day?" "They trust themselves," Talia answered, tugging his gauntlet strap snug. Beth's steadiness and Charlotte's courage. The boys feel it. Together they descended the main staircase into a hall that had been transformed overnight. Long oak tables gleamed with polish. Fresh pine garlands draped stone arches, their fragrance masking any scent of lingering fear. But Talia sensed the hush beneath the bustle. Servants moved quickly, eyes flicking to distant doorways, ears pricked for echoes of hoofbeats. News of the discovered traitor had spread, despite efforts at secrecy. Elder Rhea approached, robes the color of frost. "Alpha, Luna," she greeted softly. Her aged features wore both relief and trepidation. "The council stands ready to receive our northern guests." "Thank you, Rhea," Talia said, clasping the elder's hands. "Unity will prevail if we show it." Rhea's gaze warmed, but shadows lingered. Rumors might not shatter loyalty, yet cracks could widen. They reached the courtyard as the first horn sounded. Hooves clattered across the drawbridge, banners embroidered with a white wolf, and crossed axes fluttered in cold wind. 20 riders swept in, armored, disciplined perfect lines, and at their head rode Alpha Darien of the Silverpine Pack. Darien dismounted with fluid grace, cloak of snow-gray fur swirling around a tall, lean frame. His hair was midnight like Aldric's, but his eyes were arctic green, hard as jade. He surveyed the courtyard not with hostility, but with measuring calm, noting runestones along walls, archers pacing ramparts, healers waiting near doors. Aldric stepped forward. Welcome, Alpha Darian. Your journey from the north is respected. Darian inclined his head. Distance is no barrier to duty. We come bearing concern and hopes for clarity. Talia moved beside Aldric, offering a polite nod. We are honored and prepared to share truth. Darian's gaze settled on her, flickering briefly. Not disrespectful, yet undeniably weighing. Aldric's shoulders squared, but Talia laid a subtle hand on his arm, reminding him that confidence required no defense. Luca approached, greeting Darian's captain, then escorting the party to the great hall. Servants poured pine-scented water into silver cups. Small cakes of honey and oat were laid out. Yet the atmosphere vibrated with unspoken questions. Darian addressed the elders. Our scouts sighted crimson fires in distant valleys. Tales reach us of a prophecy stirring forces both bright and dark. We would know how this house stands, whether your strength is threat or shield. Elder Bran lifted his chin. Our strength defends peace. The prophecy holds promise, not peril. Darian's lip quirked. Prophecies bend to ambition. Aldric's voice cut clean. Ambition guided by love, anchored by unity, becomes salvation. Talia stepped forward, calm and steady. Fear can twist any tale. Let us share what is real. She gestured toward a side chamber beyond arched doors. Alpha to Alpha, Luna to Council. Hear the heart of our pack. Behind those doors lay a smaller chamber, warmed by a central hearth. Only key figures entered. Aldric, Talia, Darian, his beta Malin, elders Rhea and Bran, Luca, and the seer. Charlotte and Beth remained outside with the twins, though Charlotte kept her bow within reach. Darian's gaze flicked to the robed seer. I remember your visions in my father's hall. You foretold snow turning to ash. His tone carried wary respect. The seer's silver eyes shimmered. And I recall warning your father that only hearts united could quench such ash. The same truth stands. Talia began recounting recent events. The twins' powers, Black Ember's attacks, the traitor's deception. She did not embellish nor downplay. Her voice was even, but passion threaded through each word. Darian listened in silence, hands folded. When she finished, he blew out a breath. Strange gifts in children call to wolves darker instincts. Envy, fear, greed for power. If I lend forces, will your twins become weapons beyond our control? Aldric's answer rumbled. They are sons, not swords. We shape them with love, not war. Darian studied Talia as if searching for cracks. And if love falters? Talia met his gaze without a flicker. Then I will die mending it before letting fear guide their path. Darian's eyebrows lifted slightly. Spoken with iron. He leaned back. My counsel doubts, but I judge by eyes. I see unity here. Yet warnings stand. Fires spread. Cloaked wolves we drove from the Frost Gulch claimed loyalty to an unseen dragon. If that serpent coils round your enemies, our borders share the threat. Aldric extended a hand. Then we stand side by side. After taut seconds, Darian clasped Aldric's wrist. The room exhaled. Luca's shoulders eased. Rhea smiled faintly, as though seeing future friendships spark. Darian turned to Talia. I would speak with your seer alone if permitted. Clarify omens. Talia nodded. We will join you shortly. She motioned Luca aside. Ensure Darian's soldiers are given rest and provisions. When Darian and the seer left, Aldric closed the door. He drew Talia into his arms, pressing forehead to hers. You anchored us. So did you. She kissed him softly. Unity is spoken by two voices as one. Footsteps approached. Charlotte peeked in, Lucian perched on her hip, Lyrian clutching her sleeve. Morning diplomacy tires small princes. They seek their parents. Talia scooped Lyrian. Aldric lifted Lucian. Instantly, the boys wrapped arms around their necks. Lucian's cool little nose nuzzled Aldric's jaw. Lyrian patted Talia's cheek, humming a wordless tune. Sparks of light drifted from his fingers, forming tiny snowflakes that melted before touching the floor. Charlotte watched, eyes bright. They sensed tension, thought a lullaby of snowflakes might help. Aldric chuckled, shoulders loosening. Effective. He set Lucian down. The boy toddled toward the hearth, where embers glowed. He reached out, and heat softened to warm orange without smoke, taming fire itself. Gasps sounded from elders. Talia's breath caught. He shaped flame gentler. Rhea murmured. The prophecy unfolds before our eyes. Lyrian joined his brother, hands hovering above the coals. Together they coaxed a plume of warm air that flitted about the room like a carefree wisp before fading. Talia knelt, pulling them close. Enough for today, stars. Mama's heart can only marvel so much. Aldric ruffled their curls. Time for treats with Beth. Charlotte guided them out. Talia watched the twins go, chest swelling with pride and fear entwined. Darian and the seer returned moments later. Darian's expression held new respect, tinged with something like humility. Your seer speaks with clarity. He sees unity rising from 4 flames, 2 in your halls, 2 distant. For such harmony, others must defend the spark until children come of age. We will send 40 warriors to patrol your western flank. Aldric nodded gratitude. And we will patrol your southern pass in return. The pact sealed, Darian departed to settle his entourage. The seer lingered. He spoke low. They ride here chasing rumors, but they leave carrying purpose. Yet even alliances cannot stop the dragon's breath alone. The twins must learn willpower. They are toddlers, Talia whispered, despair nibbling. How do we teach restraint to children still learning to speak? Through trust, the seer said gently. Through games that guide rather than bind. He handed her 2 small spheres of polished moonstone. Focus stones. When they glow, the boys may practice shaping light, holding it steady. Calm them with song. You will see. Talia closed her fingers around the stones, hope fluttering. Sunset painted the estate in copper. Servants draped silken banners across the sacred circle while Beth brushed Talia's hair, weaving silver ribbons into thick braids. Charlotte tightened the waist sash of her gown, teasing, "If the alpha collapses at first sight, remember to catch him gently." Talia blushed. He's seen me in worse states, blood, dirt, tears. Then a little radiance will refresh him. Charlotte winked. Beth fastened a silver pendant at Talia's throat. It bore 2 intertwined wolves, eyes set with small moonstones gleaming pale. In the courtyard, lanterns flickered. Aldric waited clad in midnight ceremonial tunic, shoulders squared, eyes softening when Talia emerged. Gasps rippled among gathered pack and northern guests. At the circle's heart, Talia and Aldric clasped hands. Rhea intoned ancient words of renewal. Talia's voice trembled only slightly as she repeated vows. To guard love, guide strength, and stand unbroken. Aldric's baritone answered, laden with devotion. When they kissed, the world seemed briefly to hushed. Then the twins, seated between Charlotte and Beth, released a gentle wave of blue luminance that danced around the couple like a living aurora. A chorus of awed murmurs rose. Even Darian's stoic face softened. The ritual ended with a single howl lifted skyward by Aldric, echoed by wolves across the courtyard, until voices blended in a soaring pledge of unity. Lanterns flared in response to Lyrian and Lucian's joy, but the miracle's glow faded too quickly. The seer strode forward, cloak whipping in breeze, eyes wide. Fires on Western Ridge, he said, voice shaking. A line of flame shapes the symbol of the dragon's maw. They march under its shadow. Luca touched the rune on his breastplate. Scouts report cloaked wolves massing near Ridgevale Crossing. Darian frowned. That is 2 days' ride north of my pass. They attempt pincer pressure. Aldric drew Talia aside. We dispatch riders tonight. I leave before dawn with Luca and Darian's vanguard. Talia's heart clenched. And me? You command the manor, he answered, voice tender but firm. Your strength holds them here. She nodded, swallowing fear. Then go with my light. Their sons toddled over, clinging to their legs. Lyrian looked up, solemn. Papa go? For a little, Aldric said, crouching. Protecting everyone. Lucian held out a small glowing orb, the focus stone they'd discovered during dressing. It pulsed softly. Talia recognized the seer's gift. Aldric closed their tiny hands around it. Guard Mama with this. The twins nodded, eyes shining. Charlotte approached. My ankle's ready. I ride beside the Alpha. Aldric eyed her. Only if the healer clears you. Beth joined, arms crossed. And I stay. These boys need me. Talia pressed Beth's hand. Your calm is armor for the halls. Elders gathered, Bran vowed supplies, Rhea offered prayers. The seer murmured cryptic blessing. Flame meets shield where hearts entwine. Preparations blurred into night. Horses were saddled, weapons checked, runes carved onto shields. Talia stood at the gate as Aldric swung onto his stallion. Luca and Charlotte flanked him, Darian's silver-pined warriors behind. Aldric bent low in the saddle, capturing Talia's lips in a fierce kiss. Hold strong, he whispered. Ride swift, she breathed. Their foreheads touched once. Then he wheeled his horse. Hooves thundered. The column melted into forest shadows lit by distant scarlet glow. Talia watched until silence reclaimed the path. Only then did she turn, leading her sons back to the manor. She carried Lucian. Lyrian toddled, clutching her gown. At the grand door she paused, feeling wind gather, whispering of battles yet unseen. Inside, candles flickered. Talia laid Lyrian in his cradle, Lucian beside him. They rolled to face each other, hands linked around the glowing focus stone. Light pulsed steady, as if echoing Aldric's heartbeat miles away. Beth covered them with quilts. Sleep, little moons. Talia stood watch until their breaths evened. Quietly, she moved to her chamber balcony. The winds were rising, rustling trees like restless wings. Far off, red stained the horizon again, stronger now, hungry. She wrapped Aldric's cloak around her shoulders, inhaled the faint pine and leather. Come back to me, she whispered, voice steady in the dark. And I will be ready. Behind her, the twins murmured in sleep, voices weaving gentle lullaby. Love pulsed like a beacon between them all. Mother, father, sons, binding hearts across distance and dread. As the first star pierced the night, Talia lifted her chin to greet it. Winds of reckoning howled beyond the forest, but she stood rooted, unafraid. Her love burned brighter, and she knew somewhere on a moonlit road Aldric felt its glow guiding him through the gathering storm.